this time still doing the story from the drama, All of Us Are Dead. And in the video now is a summary of EPs 5 and 6. So let's review the story. Episode 5 of All of Us Are Dead begins in the hallway, with our bathroom quartet leaving. Jang Harai has her bow and arrow and goes full on Legolas, shooting down the infected. Although their group haven't given up hope, those inside the broadcasting room are on the verge of doing just that. Namra notices the helicopters in the distance and despairs that they're never going to be saved. The Korean government make a massive decision and quarantine the entire area of Hyacinth and declare martial law. Although Onjo's father manages to make it to safety with the others, this decision from the government turns the common people against those in Hyacinth. Crowds gather on the border, desperate to try and escape, but those outside have grown hostile and begin pelting them with eggs and holding protests. Meanwhile, Cheong-san survives his knife attack thanks to some lucky plot armor. The handle of the knife is what strikes our protagonist, and he rushes into the library to escape. Unfortunately, Gwai Nam is not far behind, and the pair fight atop the bookshelves. Cheong-san eventually throws Gwai Nam down to the infected, stabbing his eye and leaving him to his fate. Cheong-san does eventually manage to make it out the library and is saved at the last second by Harai and her arrows. With social media abound with rumors and numerous ill theories, on top of martial law the government decide to cut off all communications from Hyacinth to the outside world. They're on their own now. The government promised to use their resources to save as many as they can, but with no way to communicate, signals dying all over town, and Cheong-san's captured phone on a measly 6%, things don't look good. The group inside the broadcasting room decide to stop twiddling their thumbs and actually take some action. Specifically, they're going to formulate a plan to save Cheong-san. Jun Yeong and Onjo team together to find a drone and use that to locate him. With the operation a success, the drone begins flying. Using the camera mounted on it, they see firsthand just how widespread the infection actually is. They don't notice Mi Jin and the others in the infirmary though, who slip out and jump down to the dumpsters on the ground floor. In doing so, they narrowly miss the drone which whizzes up. The group decide to take the drone further outside the school, where they find cars smashed up, including Jaemin's dad's truck. They head in for a closer look, where her parents have been infected. The drone eventually loses battery and tumbles to the floor. In town, Jae-ik makes it into Cheong-san's mother's chicken shop. There, they find the baby on the seats and the infected Hee-soo still by the door, tied up. The baby is still alive, though, and Jae-ik immediately sets to work trying to find some milk to stop the rate of dehydration. Meanwhile, Onjo's father and the rest of the group are taken to an island holding a private prison. This is a quarantine zone designed for the survivors of Hyacinth. They're being kept there and need to surrender all of their personal belongings. That includes the congresswoman too, who is forced to follow protocol. The wait time is between 12 to 72 hours to be seen, and right now they're being kept behind bars. Only, they're not alone. Other survivors are there too, all huddled up together like cattle. We then cut back to the library. Gwai Nam is still alive and not actually infected. According to Byong Chan's overlapping narration, it appears the cells as part of this virus have evolved and mutated to such a degree that they've become sentient. So with Gwai Nam, he is basically infected but a super zombie of sorts. With a bleeding eye and a red-hot vengeance, he remains fixated on finding Cheong-san. Episode 6 of All of Us Are Dead starts on the roof as Cheol-soo leaves and sows note for whoever may be looking. Yoon-jae, however, happens to still be alive and despite being bitten numerous times, finds herself in the bathroom washing blood off her hands. Is she another who has survived the infection and become a super zombie? Following what happened to her parents, a suicidal Jaemin is saved by her fellow students from jumping out the window. She isn't sure how to continue on. Onjo takes her aside, though, and talks to her about her own familial woes. Onjo doesn't want to lose any more friends and she can empathize with Jaemin's feeling of loss. As they lean on the speaker, a high-pitched whine rings out through the school. This gives Namra an idea as she decides to use the sound as a distraction for the zombies to sneak out and escape to safety. Soo Hyeok is first to speak, though, and he communicates with Cheong-san, telling him to hold tight. It's not until Onjo speaks and says the same thing that he actually listens. Unfortunately, Gwai Nam is also listening, and with a knife in hand, he charges for the broadcasting room to catch them off guard and kill Cheong-san. While all the zombies are distracted by the broadcasts drawn to the speakers in the corner of each hallway, one lowly zombie happens to be stuck against the wall right outside the broadcasting room. It constantly smacks its head while the entire group slowly creep past before they blow their cover. The chase is on, and they make it to safety. However, Nam realizes what the kids are up to, seeing their scribbled plan in the broadcasting room and continuing his chase. Unfortunately, this also sees him come face to face with Soo-hyuk. Nam-ra tries to save him, but winds up bitten for her troubles. Nam is knocked out the window, allowing the pair to escape. The rest of the gang manage to make it over to Cheong-san, but in doing so, once again find themselves surrounded. And worse, Nam-ra is obviously bitten and could well be infected. Outside of the quarantine zone, things continue to turn ugly. The group are being kept in quarantine for at least 4 weeks. An-jo's father, Nam So-ju, tries to find a way out sooner, which eventually leads to him choking out one of the guards and knocking out another. An-jo's dad is determined to get back to his daughter and decides to leave, taking their uniform for himself. Posing as a guard, So-ju sneaks off with Yu-sin, one of the other office workers in disguise. With no kids in school uniforms among those in the quarantine, An-jo's dad realizes he needs to leave. Meanwhile, Cheong-san breaks the news to the others about Nam being infected. As he's basically infected but not a proper zombie, it's unknown what the ramifications are for Nam-ra now that she's been bitten. Soo-hyuk decides to take responsibility for her, choosing to stand by Nam-ra's side and stop the others from hurting her. Tensions soon grow between him and Cheong-san. An-jo does try to talk him down, but it soon becomes apparent that Nam-ra is infected. Or at least infected with a different strain or variation of this virus. She has the bloodshot eyes and glossy look, but not the bleeding nose or the cold hands. Hostility ripples right the way through the group, threatening to turn them against one another. In order to quell any doubts, Soo-hyuk ties his hand to Nam-ra's, taking full responsibility for anything that could happen to them. Meanwhile, Jae-ik ventures out of the chicken shop momentarily, only to find another little girl outside. She rushes toward him, with hungry zombies behind her. Jae-ik manages to save her though, as she points out her infected mother in the horde, banging on the windows. So-ju manages to make it free from the quarantine zone, with a little help from Yu-jin who gives him a boost over the wall. However, he goes on alone and evades gunfire as he tries to make it to safety. Of course, this is an island, so that's easier said than done. Back with the broadcasting group, each of the kids use a handheld camera to send lasting messages with Dae-soo singing and An-jo promising to do her best. As she speaks, we cut across to So-ju once more, who's chased by guards with embarrassingly bad aim. I mean literally he's running in a straight line, and he manages to evade every single bullet. As he makes it underwater, it's clear he's been shot once, while An-jo gives an impassioned plea to her father.